What's up, Break It Down family, and welcome back to the Break It Down podcast. The Break It Down podcast is all about breaking down worship songs to help you better understand what you hear and sing. There are powerful scriptures tied directly to worship songs. Also, a song is poetry set to a melody. That being said, there are beautiful pictures and metaphors created all throughout the genre. Our goal here is to dive in deep and help you really comprehend the power of worship music. If you don't follow me on social media, go ahead and do that so you can get updates on when a new podcast is going live and what song we'll be discussing that week. You can find me on Facebook at Aubrey Decker and on Instagram and TikTok at AubreyDecker_. Without any further ado, let's dive right in. If you saw my social media post, you would know that this week we are discussing Move Your Heart by Maverick City. This song is one of my absolute favorites because it just has so much purity to it. It's all about asking God how we can move His heart. So typically worship songs, you have the ones where you're praising God and you have the ones where you're just proclaiming His goodness and all that good stuff over your life. And then you've got the ones where you're letting Him love on you. But what's so special about this one is it's kind of taking that letting Him love on you and flipping it on its head. So it's turning it around in such a beautiful way. And this song is set up kind of like a prayer. So it starts with some praise, and then we begin to tell Jesus our intention. Then we put everything out there on the altar for Jesus to have at His free will. And then we go back to our intentions again, and then we tell Him what our goals are and what we dream of. Then we get to the bridge, and we're asking Him what would please Him. And then we're so quick to jump in to say that we would do it if it would move Him, and we would do whatever it is if it would just move Him. So then we go back to our intentionality of telling Him, we just want to love on you with whatever we do. And then it just ends with more intention and more goodness of God. So I love that it's set up like a prayer because it's sort of like a conversation starter. So prayer is just talking to God. I say that pretty much in every one of these podcast episodes. Prayer is just talking to God. It kind of takes the pressure off when you think about it, just talking to Him like a friend instead of this whole big grand, like, dear Father, that kind of vibe. He's a friend. Jesus is our friend and God's our Father, and you should talk to Him in the way that you talk to your Father, with respect, of course, but there's a certain level of intimacy with your Father that you don't have with just every older man out there. Like, your Father is different. He has a different understanding because you grew up with Him. And even if you didn't grow up with God, God saw you grow up. So He still knows the ins and outs of what's happened, where you've been, and how far you've come. And when you take that pressure off and you're just able to be like, hey, I love you. I'm thankful for you. You're so, so good. You're so great. And I'm so thankful that I have you in my heart. And I'm so thankful that I have you to guide me in everything because I can't do it on my own. I'm thankful that I have you, Jesus. And when you can just take that pressure off and you can just let your relationship become more real and more raw, it's so cool. And this song is set up like a prayer, so it is that conversation starter. So it's got the praise and it's got the thanks, and then it's got some asking and it's got some questions for God, like, would this move you? And then He can respond in a way. So I challenge you when you listen to this, like, think of it as a conversation starter and a prayer starter. So after you listen to it, take a second, be like, whoa, what did I just sing? What did I just hear? Let's talk about it, Jesus. Like, let's sit down and let's talk about this. Let it be a conversation starter for you. So this song is something I take super seriously because of that. So this song has a commitment attached to it. There was this one time I was leading worship at the youth group in my church, and I stopped in the middle of this song to explain to the students what it meant and what kind of a commitment it was. Because they were just singing, going about their business, like just singing along like they would to a song on the radio. But words have power. So I just wanted them to really know what they were singing, because there is life and death in the tongue, and words hold a lot of power. If you're going to speak something to this caliber or any caliber for that matter, you need to mean it. So I let them know, like, hey, this is kind of what this song's about. This is what it means. If you mean it, sing it. If you don't, I don't want to hear you sing it. because I don't want them to be proclaiming things that they're not going to follow through with. I want them to be intentional with their words. So after I explained it to them and I went back into the song again, man, did some of those students just really like pour their heart out in front of God, because they knew what it meant and they were willing to do just what it says. So it was really powerful in that moment to see the students going after God harder than they had the whole service, because they knew what it meant and they understood and they were willing to do what it said. So with all of that power already in this song, with just the makeup of it and just like the layout and how it is set up, and with the questions and with the praise and all that stuff, with that background information, let's go and let's break it down. So, starting at verse 1, let's break it down. So, Jesus, Jesus, precious Lord, none on the earth nor heavens above that I have found more beautiful. You are my treasure, my great reward. So, like I said, this starts off with some praise, proclaiming who he is to us. So, like, Jesus, Jesus, precious Lord, there's no one on earth or in the heavens that I have found more beautiful than you, Jesus. And then it goes into the last line, and this is my favorite part of the verse. You are my treasure, my great reward. So in Matthew 16:21, it says, don't store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them and rust destroy them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. That last verse is super, super, super important. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. I have this app. It's called Blue Letter Bible. It's on the App Store, and I'm sure they have an online version too. And it's really cool because it breaks down the original like script of this text, and it breaks down each individual character and kind of tells you the definition of it, because throughout the Bible, the same word may be used, but it has different definitions. Just like in the English language, you may use it in context and it means something else. You may use it in this context, it means something completely different. So just like the English language, the Bible is that same way. So I went through this scripture and I looked up what that word treasure meant in that last verse. So treasure means storehouse. So that means wherever you store your treasures, there your heart will be also. So if we store our treasure, and if our treasure is found in Jesus in heaven, then that's where the desires of our heart will be also. And that's how we become more heaven-minded and more kingdom-minded, because that's where our treasure is. If our treasure is where the desires of our hearts are, and our treasure is found in Jesus, we're going to have this like makeover on our mind once we discover Jesus being our storehouse. So that's demonstrated in the first chorus. I just want to move your heart. That's all I want to do. I just want to stand in awe and pour my love on you. No matter how much the cost, I freely give it all to you. All to you. So just like we were talking about the desire of our heart, once that our storehouse is in Jesus and the desires of our hearts begin to shift, then all we want to do is move his heart. All we want to do is just pour our love on you and stand in awe and in God's presence. So this part of the song is just telling him our intentions. Like, I just want to move your heart, Jesus. It's like saying, Jesus, I want to bless you. What can I do that will show you how much that I love you, God? I'll do anything to love you. I don't care what it costs. I just want to love you. And then it goes into the second verse. Jesus, Jesus, my offering, all my ambitions, my hopes, my dreams, and here's my life, Lord, a sacrifice, oh, just to bless you. It's still stuck on that idea of wanting to bless him. But it's also laying everything down at his feet, a sacrifice. When it's talking about laying down all my ambitions, my hopes, my dreams, it's talking about how a lot of times in life we have our own perceived ideas about what we need to do with our lives and what needs our time and what we can and can't do because of the limits we put on ourselves. But what God says is in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. So he has plans for us and he has a future planned for us. So sometimes when we think about our destiny, it gets in the way of what God really wants you to do and through you. So that own perceived idea, those ambitions, the hopes, the dreams, some of them, yes, God doesn't put desires in our heart and ambitions and dreams and things to see them wasted. He puts them there for a reason. But if you're looking at them through an earthly lens, you're going to see something totally different. And you totally missed what it meant in the first place. Personally, growing up, I always wanted to be a doctor. And my reason for wanting to be a doctor is I wanted to be a trauma ER surgeon. So I wanted to like be in the ER, and specifically like I wanted to help like car accident victims. So like I wanted them to come into my ER and I wanted to fix them up. I wanted to make sure that they got to go home with their family and that they didn't die because of a car accident. And so that restoration of families is what drove me to do that. I wanted to see people get better, and I wanted to see people healed so that they could be restored with their family. And that restoration of families, I looked at it through a flesh lens, and I saw medical field. Medical field's a way I can do that. I can restore families through being a doctor. So I did that. I pursued that. I pursued that for probably about a decade. And I'm not much older than a decade. I pursued it in my childhood, elementary, intermediate, junior high, high school years. And it took me until my senior year of high school to realize, hey, this was the true dream. This was the true intention behind this goal and this dream. And there's a different lens to look through to see how it can be fulfilled. So ministry is a way to restore families. There's so many other ways that you can restore families. And in reality, God's the only one that can restore families. So being able to look at it through his lens and be able to see the plans and the hope and the future that he has for me instead of me creating that on my own is you just stand in awe when you look at it. So like, Jesus, my offering, all my ambitions, my hopes, my dreams, here's my life, Lord, a sacrifice. So like literally laying everything down at his feet, being like, here this is, God, take it and do whatever you need to with it. Here's my life. It's a sacrifice. Whatever you do, I just want it to bless you. So this verse is just surrendering it all to his plans and his will. It's laying everything down so that we can be used as a vessel for him. And then the second chorus continues with those intentions. So it says, I just want to move your heart. Get caught within your gaze. Right here in your presence, God, is where I want to stay. Oh, just to dwell in your house. Waste my hours and my days on you. All on you. Now, this chorus has a really, really cool picture. For me, I see in the line, get caught within your gaze, I just picture God and us being like locked into eye contact. And locking eye contact with someone for an extended period of time, it's an intimate thing. So to be caught into a gaze with him because he is looking at me and I'm looking at him is so special and so intimate. So you've seen in movies like how there's someone looking and then someone looks at that same person and they catch each other's gaze and they get locked into that eye contact, and the movie just zooms in on it and makes it like this whole big shot because it's an intimate thing to be locked into eye contact with someone. So it's just so cool to see that picture and be like, man, God is looking at us, and when we're looked at him, we're locked into eye contact. We have that level of intimacy. However, when you go further down into the chorus, there's a line that I'm not one to criticize, so don't think that this is this. At my church, personally, we changed the line a little bit because not everyone knows the true intention, or so I think, behind this line. So this line says, waste my hours and my days on you. So the reason my church doesn't sing waste my hours and my days on you, we say spend my hours and my days on you, is because some people get that confused with like it being a waste of time, because it's not a waste of time to spend time with God. It's a privilege, and we're so willing to do it, and we'd rather spend all our time on it. So the idea of willingly to spend your hours and your time, because time is a currency. Your time is valuable. You get paid at most jobs for your time. So spending all your time on him is a powerful statement, because we could be out doing so many other things, making money, spending time with people, but no, I'll spend all my hours on you, Jesus. But what I think, when I dove into scripture to really analyze the song and really break it down, something that I found from another part of the song applied here too, and I think it makes it make a whole lot more sense. And I didn't like the line at first, but now it's starting to grow on me. So it's in the lady with the alabaster jar, and how she pours it on Jesus's head in Matthew, and then in Matthew and Mark, and then Luke and John, she pours it on his feet and washes her hair with it. So you've got this lady, and she is doing this crazy cool act of worship for Jesus. So she takes this really expensive perfume or oil or whatever it is in this jar, and she breaks it and she uses it on Jesus. She spends it on Jesus. But even the disciples that were standing right there, they were like, hello? That's like a waste. That's a waste of that. You could have sold that and then given your money to the poor. Wouldn't that have been a much better use of it? And Jesus corrected him, because that wasn't the right mindset. I'm going to read it for you just so you can kind of see how Jesus responded to that and how the disciples reacted in the first place. So it says, while Jesus was in Bethany in the home of Simeon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head, and he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant. Why this waste? They asked. This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. So they've got this reaction of, why this waste? And then Jesus is like, this is not a waste at all. This is a beautiful act of worship, and you should take notes. Like, you should learn from her. So whether you think of it as spending or wasting, spending your time, that's a beautiful way to think about it, and then thinking about how the world sees it as a waste of time, but in reality, it's the biggest use of your time that you could ever do, and the best use of your time that you could ever do. Whatever you choose to think about it, either is a really good choice. It's a solid choice if it's an educated choice, and I like both. And the second one's starting to grow on me a little bit more, the way it was written. Anyways, moving on to my absolute favorite part of this song. Whenever I lead this song, I may go back to this a little more than some people would expect, but it's the bridge. I love, love, love this bridge. I'm gonna read it for you. It says, is it a fragrance? Then I'll pour my oil out. Is it a life laid down? Then here I give my vow. Is it a song I sing? Then here's every melody. Just tell me what moves you. Just tell me what moves you. So each of those lines, it's like a question and a follow-up answer. So is it a fragrance is a question. And then I'll pour my oil out. If the answer to that question is yes, then we've already decided that we're going to do it even before the answer has been spoken. So it's so powerful. So like we talked about, it starts out with the woman who poured the perfume on Jesus. And we talked about how sold out that she was to him. She loved him so much because she used a super expensive jar of perfume to pour it on Jesus because she didn't care the cost. And she didn't have the best reaction from people either. So she didn't do it for people's reaction either. She just wanted to honor him. And I've heard several really cool takes about this story because of the time and the place that it's happened. And if you look at it in context to the time period and like what area, what region it was. And one way I've had it explained to me was in this day and age, a woman was given a dowry to use to get a husband. Typically, it was like in Jewish tradition, when the young girl was ready for marriage, her family would purchase like an alabaster box and fill it full of expensive ointments and oils. And how big the box was and how much it weighed was a symbol of how big the dowry would be for the marriage of the daughter. So when a man came and asked for a girl's hand in marriage, she would take out the alabaster box and break it at his feet, anointing them with oil, a sign of her honoring this request. So, like in the songs, is it a fragrance? Then I pull my oil out. This girl right here, she had this alabaster box, which was meant to be her marriage. Like, it was meant to initiate her marriage, and that's what would get her to be married. So how God designed marriage, there is the utmost level of intimacy in a marriage. And she used this ticket to marriage that she had been given by her family. She just broke it on Jesus's feet. She was supposed to break it on her future husband's feet, but she broke it on Jesus' feet instead. And she was willing to spend her dowry on Jesus because she was desiring that intimacy. Yes, she valued her relationship with her future husband, but she valued her relationship with Jesus even more, to have that spiritual intimacy and that spiritual connection and that intimacy with the God that you can't get in earthly intimacy like your spiritual intimacy with the Lord. And so another way, I love that way. It's so beautiful. And another way I've heard a pastor explain it is when she pours it on him, and if in the other two gospels where it says that she washes them with her tears afterwards and all these things, in that process, she's going to get some of that perfume on her. She's going to get a little dirty with the perfume. But that means from her act of worship, of adoration, she's literally going to smell like Jesus. How cool is it to think of like smelling like God, smelling like Jesus, like being, like worshiping him to the point where you smell like him. And then when people smell you, they smell Jesus, and they can just see and smell Jesus all over you because you've had that connection and that intimacy with him. It's just, I've heard another song and the lyric goes, I want to smell like you, Jesus. I don't care what it costs. And that's truly your heart here. Like, I just want to smell like you, Jesus. I just want to be just like you. I just want to worship you with all I have. I don't care what it costs. Whatever I have, I give you. And the bridge goes on to say, is a life laid down, then here I give my vow. This is so serious and should be taken as such. You're giving a vow. You're vowing to give your whole life to God and literally lay it down. So when you lay down your life to God, expect the unexpected, because he has so much greater plan for us than we could have planned for ourselves. So expect the unexpected. Expect for him to do above and beyond what we could have ever imagined. So when you're laying your life down, there's going to be trials, there's going to be tribulations, but you're going to be in the fullness of what God has planned for you. So that's serious. And so if you're going to sing that, if you're going to say that, you need to make sure you mean it before you do. Is it a life laid down? Then here I give my vow. That's so serious. And then it goes on to say, is it a song I sing? Then here is every melody. Just tell me what moves you. Just tell me what moves you. I love that. It's not just one song. It's every song. And if you notice, there's such an eagerness behind these lyrics. Like, you want it? Here, please take it. Like, here you go. Here, please take it. There's such an eagerness to please him and bless him. Then in the structure of the song, it ends back on the first chorus. I just want to move your heart. It's all I want to do. I just want to stand in awe and pour my love on you. No matter how much the cost, I freely give it all to you. All to you. There's something so sweet about that chorus. It's just so pure. Wherever you are today, whether you're in your car, you're listening to this at your house, you're outside, or wherever you are, agree with me when I say this. And if you know it by heart, say it with me. But if you don't, just listen and agree. God, I just want to move your heart. It's all I want to do. I just want to stand in awe and pour my love on you. No matter how much the cost, I freely give it all to you. All to you. Thank you so much for listening and watching this podcast. Once again, if you have not followed me on social media, don't miss out on updates on the upcoming podcasts. Again, it's Aubrey Decker on Facebook or Aubrey Decker _ on Instagram and TikTok. Until next time, here on the Break It Down podcast.